Welcome to Ground Up Growth, where we share entrepreneurial insights, business strategies, and personal growth lessons to help listeners build success from the ground up.
Welcome to Ground Up Growth. Today we have LaSource here. LaSource is a good friend of mine. I've known him for a very long time, and he is a successful businessman that owns a company called It's Vinyl, y'all, here in Gluckstadt, Mississippi. So he's got an incredible story, incredible journey, and really looking forward to this one. So Austin, thank you so much for coming on. Tell us all about yourself. Let's just give our listeners, I know you really well, but some people may not know you. So
So thanks for having me on, Paul. As you said, I do own It's Vinyl, y'all. We are a full service design, print, install, branding, vehicle wraps company in Gluckstadt, Mississippi. And it was kind of a mouthful what I just said, but we anything related to someone's brand for their business, we can help you create a design for it. We can print it on anything from small stickers to full vehicle wraps, walls, windows, and floors inside your physical location.
yeah,
And then, of course, we install all of that. The only thing that we don't do is anything that's electronically lit. So like outdoor signs that have light bulbs or backlit, things like that. We don't do anything with electricity. So we have other people we recommend that out to.
right.
But yeah, we've known each other a really long time. And you and I were talking before this, but I can remember back to, I don't remember if we were 14, 15 years old, growing up here in Madison, Ridgeland. Somehow or another, we became friends. We were, upriver wakeboarding, always doing different things, running the roads, just being teenagers.
Right.
But I can remember the one thing that was really unique to me about you was I felt like you and I thought so much on the same line.
Yeah.
You were doing a lot of eBay selling, and I had done a little bit of that. And I was like, man, this is awesome. This guy.
Nobody knows that I was involved in eBay.
Yeah.
I was pretty deep in there.
Big time. Yeah. You and Steve had like an eBay,
We were a shooting star on the, it had like different color stars as you sold more stuff, and we were to the shooting star.
Power seller. That's the only thing I got to was power seller.
I had the cheat code though. Dad worked at the post office, so he shipped all my stuff. So
you were doing eBay. I can remember like just always our conversations. Obviously, we were, like I said, teenagers. We were talking about outdoor stuff, wakeboarding, hunting, all those different things. Just trucks and whatever else. Right, the things that seemed really important at the time.
Right.
But you and I, of all of our friends, were always after something to make money, and it wasn't because we were trying to get rich or do something like that. It was so that we could, at least for me, fund the habits that I had. Like I said, going wakeboarding, we could pay for gas or anything like that, just doing the things that we enjoyed. But a lot of other kids seem to be just like, hey, mom and dad, let me get this. And I grew up in a household, I think a lot like you, where I had parents that cared about me and never didn't provide what I needed, but they didn't always provide what I wanted.
Right.
And so I think that was part of the fuel for me to be motivated to create success is the word I use now, but I think my earliest thoughts was that, like finding ways to create success in anything that I did, to do everything to the fullest extent, really try hard, work hard, think outside the box. And I think, like I said, those earliest thoughts that I had, like from selling things on eBay, I had a windshield repair and replacement company. Just anything that I could do to make some money. Cleaning up construction sites, whatever it was. Like if I knew somebody that was doing it from church or wherever else.
Yeah. I
used to work at the Coliseum and the Jackson Bandits games. Do you remember those?
Yes.
The hockey team?
The hockey team.
So I would go work those merchandise stands after school until whatever time the games were over, and then I'd get paid in cash for, going and merchandising and stuff for a couple hours or whatever it was. Really? It was super easy, and then I got to watch hockey games for free. So that was cool, but So
you're what, 38, 39?
I'm 39. I'll be 40 this month, next week.
Married to Lauren.
I'm sorry. I'll be 39 next week. Did I say 40?
I don't know.
Okay.
We're getting close.
Yeah, it is close.
Getting too close.
It is close.
You're married to Lauren.
Yes.
How many kids you got?
So, yes, I'm married to Lauren. This year will be 16 years married. So
16.
Long time. I got a lot of life lessons under my belt and lots more to go. But she's still with me, which is amazing. So I'm very fortunate in that. So we have 3 kids. We have Ryan, Bo, and Lexi. Bo and Lexi are our kids that are here on Earth today. Ryan passed away in 2016. We'll talk more about that. Bo is, we'll say Ryan would be 13 this year. Bo is 6, and Lexi is 2. And we are in the thick of 2-year-old craziness. It is something else with a little girl.
Oh yeah, I've got a 3 and then a 1. So
yeah,
coming out of it and going back into it.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. That's
But y'all go to Broadmoor Church.
We do. We go to Broadmoor. Kids go to school locally, and Lexi actually goes to school like pre-K at Broadmoor. Yeah. So we try to be really involved in the community. Mm-hmm. Even to the standpoint of the business, which obviously is why we're here to talk about, that. But what we like to do at It's Vinyl, y'all, is to serve our customers well, right? So everything that we do, we try to do it to the best of our abilities. We tell people all the time we're going to fail. We're not going to do it right at some point, but we're always going to stand behind it.
Right.
And I think that's one thing that has given us success is just doing what we say we're going to do. And I feel like by us, giving into, like I said, the community, the local businesses that are here, when we create success in another company, say an HVAC company comes to us, wants to do a rebrand or something like that. If we can create success in that business, it creates success in us, because when they get more vehicles, a bigger location, whatever it is, they get more things done. They see the value in the product that we sell and that we offer. And it just, the rising tide lifts all ships, like some people say, right? So that's kind of perfect. That's example. Us.
Yeah. So you went to Mississippi State, graduated in what?
I went to Mississippi State, graduated. It was 2008. I graduated with a degree called Bachelor of Science in Interdisciplinary Studies. And that basically means I made my degree up. So I have a degree in marketing, public relations, and psychology. I wrote a degree, presented it to the schools, they approved it, and I went through with it. And that's just another point of me being somebody that was trying to go a little bit against the grain, do something different. I didn't see the full value in all of those curriculums. So I curated something that worked better for what I needed. But really for me, if I could take a 2-second spill on college, I think it's great. I think it's needed. I think it has its place, but I think we're all seeing nowadays that there's also a place for people to not go there. And if I had have not gone to college, I would have not met my wife, and my life wouldn't be what it is today, right? Yeah. But I was checking a box going to college. I was doing what my dad and my grandfather told me to do, my family told me to do, and I don't fault them for that a bit, because again, it gave me the life that I have today.
Right.
But there's a lot of kids that could come out of high school, they're not college material, they could go straight to a trade school. They could come straight and work for somebody like me and make really good money at 18 years old, set themselves up for extreme success, happiness in your career. I mean, how many people dread Sunday night because they got Monday morning work?
Oh, if you got the Sunday, what Gina used to call them, the Sunday scaries or something like that.
Yeah.
I can't remember what she called them. Sunday scaries, I think.
Yeah, and it's a real thing. I think people get depressed.
If you get that should tell you something.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree 100%. And I have hit on that. I can't tell you how many times I've got some friends that I mess with that, they work for the man, and there's nothing wrong with that. Mm-hmm. It takes a village, but the way that's set up is college is a shoot, and it can be dangerous for the people that are really, really smart going through, because it's like, hey, you need to be a doctor, or you need to be an engineer, or whatever. And it's like, you get put in this shoot. And I mean, my brother's a perfect example. And again, I'm not knocking this at all, but my brother is literally a rocket engineer for NASA. Now, we have totally different genes. You know my brother, and love him to death, but he's in a position where he's a rocket engineer, so he can't really pivot and go do something else unless he went down an entrepreneur route. So, and another big thing with that too, I would say, is the passion. Like, where is your passion? Mm-hmm. If you're a young kid going or thinking about going to college, and what is your passion? If your passion is truly a trade that's not going to be beneficial in college, right? There's nothing wrong with potentially leaning in on that path, because that's
Oh yeah, well, you think about it, and I mean, we hear people talking about this now because it's becoming a point of conversation. But that person could skip college altogether, not get into 6 figures of debt, they could go to a trade school that cost them 10 or 15,000 bucks, and they could go get hired on by somebody at 40 grand straight away. So it's like, all right, they spend 9 months in a trade school. They go work for somebody for 4 years or whatever it is, learning this trade, and then they go start their own business. And you can write your own check at that point. You could set it on cruise and work 3 days a week and not any time during hunting season, or you could build a team and have something that's huge and successful like a lot of people around here have done.
And that's not for everybody, obviously. And there's pros and cons, health insurance and things that, I deal with that, or we both deal with that. Just paying your own health insurance that does sting, and that comes off the bottom line. So, all right, I want to backtrack a little bit. So you graduated from state. What'd you do? Did you come out and get a job?
Graduated state.
When did you and Lauren get married?
We got married in 2009. So we graduated 2008. Both of us did from state, and got married in 2009, like right away. We met in college. Lauren had a good job in sales, and in college, I started an internet company. We were selling like nutritional supplements online. Allstarsupplements.com.
I remember that.
And then I had a partnership with another one that was called runyourrace.com. Okay. And so one was bodybuilding supplements, one was endurance supplements, same products. We were drop shipping these. I was drop shipping these products from 6 different warehouses across the country, so it was 2 days or less to anywhere in the United States before drop shipping was really a thing. Like,
how did you even discover this?
This was like probably 2006 when we started doing that, and I say I started doing it. Kind of came up with the idea, found a supplier, figured out they had warehouses all over the place, and when I placed my order, it came from those different warehouses based on proximity. So I just said, well, can I send y'all my FedEx account and my orders? And they were like,
to learn this though, so you just
came up with it.
Just
I was like, there's got to be a way for me to not keep all these items when there's warehouses that have them. And so the orders would come in every day, and every night I would send PDF invoices to my supplier. I had one salesperson, and to him it was sales all the same. He didn't care.
Yeah.
So he fulfilled them that way and sent them to people, and we had customers in California and Indiana and all over the place selling various supplements. And all I had to do was upload images and descriptions and all that kind of stuff. I was using Facebook at that time to sell, and there was no Facebook business pages. So I was just posting on my page, which was really, really basic. Again, this was 2006. And then I was also using Twitter a little bit, which I don't even use Twitter now, but I was using Twitter at the time to post links every day. It was just kind of all about like backlinks and SEO. Again, that was really in the early days of that, but we were doing a lot of that. And then in the meantime, I was working for a company called EY Studios in Starkville, doing websites, e-commerce. We were building Yahoo stores. This was there was no e-commerce platform except Yahoo stores and like a couple of other really, really early ones. And so we were doing that. So anyway, that's how I got started in like e-commerce and selling. Graduated state, was going to stay in that. That company went to Atlanta. I decided to go a more corporate route, and I went to work for C-Spire, and they were called Sailor South at the time.
So you moved back here, bought a house?
Moved back here, bought a house.
Took a job with C-Spire. What was your job there, your title?
I was trying to remember who helped me buy that house, but it wasn't you because you weren't a realtor yet, I don't think. It was in Cobblestone.
I got in 2011. So.
Yeah, Cobblestone right there off Highway 51. It was an amazing house I wish I still owned. So I started working for C-Spire or Sailor South in the stores. I thought, what better way to get sales?
Sailor South is C-Spire?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
You did. You just don't remember. So yeah,
really?
It was Sailor South. I started working in the stores, selling products. I think I worked there for 6 or 8 months in different stores and different positions, and then went to the corporate office and was doing web and technology. That's what my background always was in, marketing for web and technology.
Corporate office in Ridgeland? In
Ridgeland.
And Lauren, is she working at this time?
Lauren was working for a State Farm agent and doing insurance sales, and it was great, fantastic business that's still in operation, and they're great folks. But I learned a lot of things at Sailor South, and which then turned to C-Spire, and this was the point I was going to make. I was a part of that brand change. So like that was the first real huge milestone experience that I could have never gotten had I not been in the corporate world. So I was one of the few people that was involved in changing this massive brand from a regional brand to a national brand. And there was a ton of stuff that went into that, bringing Apple in and all this other stuff. So anyway, there was like a big learning for me that I couldn't have gotten in any other place. But
Yeah.
to not harp on corporate too much, corporate was so good, but it was like handcuffs, because I worked for them and then I worked for a CPA firm doing the same thing, web and technology marketing. And you get really comfortable in a corporate environment. Everything's paid for, your insurance and that kind of stuff, or it's very inexpensive, and you have your salary and everything's quote unquote guaranteed. But your opportunity for success in the future is minimal. Your growth is really small percentage changes, and that's forever. And there's a lot of people, I think, that are made to be in that world because it's comfortable, it's easy, it's low risk.
You know what the crazy thing is, and I've always said this too, you think you're comfortable and safe. You're one phone call away from no job.
Yes.
You're literally, that's all you, between you and one phone call. I mean, you're seeing that right now with all the federal jobs, and stuff. I mean, you think you're in a safe bubble, you're one phone call away. And so you're really not that far away from a risk perspective from being an entrepreneur. And again, I'm not trying to corral everybody to become an entrepreneur. It's not for everybody, but it's, we want to dissect everything. And so I think, you've got having experience. I do not have experience in the corporate world. I had an internship with Yates Construction because I graduated in construction and land development. So I had a little bit of taste of corporate, but not enough to really give any kind of big insight on.
Corporate world to me was you got to learn you got to sit in a lot of really important meetings. You got to learn a lot of ways to handle yourself in settings where you had agencies from New York or different things like that. Again, there's a lot of really good stuff that you can't learn if you aren't in that world. You just can't. So it has taught me a lot of ways to deal with, in our current business, some scenarios. But it also, again, it puts you in this, it's a vicious cycle of they provide your cell phone, well, you better answer it day and night whenever they call, but we're only going to pay you this amount of money. I mean, anything down to like, okay, they want me to do all this work every single day, but yet you want to schedule meetings for half the day, every day. Okay. So which do you want? Right. Or we have this really great balance of work and life, which everybody preaches on. And we truly have that where, it's vinyl y'all now, but how can I have a work-life balance if you schedule meetings for 6 p.m. on a Friday? Again, it's some circumstances, it's not always that way, but like, to me, those were my pain points. And I can just remember having those Sunday dread, that dread time where you're just like, ugh, I've got to get up tomorrow and go to work and do this again, right? Not looking forward to it. You've
had this entrepreneurial spirit the whole time with the windshield, the supplements.
Right. It really came down to, I was, and I told my parents before I came on here, I was like, I don't want y'all to take this as like a negative, but it's what they did. They went and got a job just like their previous person and so on and so forth. My grandfather and his dad and it just down the line. That's what everybody did.
It's common stock. Yeah.
So I did that too. But then I realized it's just not what I want. And so,
and to your point, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, it's no different than me showing houses to people or something, and they know they want this house. A lot of times I will go out of my way to say, look, let's go look at this other house to see one that you're going to cull out. Right. It'll help you to know what you don't want. So, it's like I bought a motorcycle one time because I had the itch, wanted it. If I'd have never scratched the itch and got the motorcycle, I'd still want the motorcycle, but I scratched the itch.
Yep.
So probably the same thing with you in the corporate world. You got marinated in there just enough to be like, I know what I don't want.
Yeah, so I was in there from 2009 to 2016. So a good while.
I didn't realize you were there that long.
Yeah. And so it like I said, it was good, but I get to interact in those same spaces today in our business that we have. So I want to talk about my son, Ryan, how I mentioned in the beginning. He passed away in 2016. That's a huge part of my story and like kind of what gets me to the jumping off point of taking that leap of faith and going all out.
Right.
If you're ready for that.
I'm ready.
Okay.
I've heard it and it's an incredible story.
So 2012, let's see, December 22nd, 2012, Ryan was born, first kid. My wife and I were so excited, Lauren, we didn't necessarily expect we weren't in that stage of like, oh, we're for sure going to have a baby like right now. It's just kind of like what's going to happen happens. And we're so blessed and fortunate. We weren't that old. We'd only been married a couple years, but let's see, 2012, I can't remember. I would probably be like 23 or something like that. But either way, it was really scary. Brought a kid into this world. And then to sum up like what happened in the first 6 months of Ryan's life, he lived a normal life, but he also had a lot of little things that Lauren was hypersensitive to as a mom, as most moms are, that weren't normal. A lot of pediatrician visits, a lot of other things. It led us to a dermatologist office on the wrong day, and they still saw us, and they did a biopsy of something on his skin, and it came back as leukemia, AML leukemia. So it's acute myeloid leukemia, if I'm remembering the term right. And that basically means that he had cancer in his blood. So many of the cells in his blood were mutated and bad. So there wasn't a mass, there wasn't anything they could remove. They had to basically give chemo drugs to kill all of his good and bad cells, because they're kind of the same. And then hopefully just the good cells would come back. That's essentially the treatment.
Yeah.
So but that whole experience was, I left work. I was at C-Spire. I got the phone call from Lauren. She was at the park. The dermatologist's office called and said, where are you at in your day? We've got news in its worst case scenario. Get here right now. So we had to drive from Ridgeland out to like way out in Dogwood, about 20 minutes. And then they sent us straight to the children's hospital. And they were waiting on us there. They did a lot of tests, and we were immediately admitted that night. We started signing papers. We started making decisions on treatment. And I think you remember some of this, but some of this was also like a period of time where I feel like, we were in the stage of having a kid, and you weren't quite married yet, right? So it's like we were in different life stages, still connected. And anyway, we wound up going through a lot of different type of treatment, and Ryan got better, and then he got worse. So he went through his first 3 months of chemo, and we were in and out of the hospital every 30 days or so. We were in for about 20 or 30 days straight at a time. So again, blessing of the corporate world, like I've been kind of talking down on it. I basically told them, I'll be back when I'm back. Please don't get rid of my health insurance. And they didn't. And they kept paying me most of the time, and like took extreme care of us. Wow. I can't be more thankful for the two companies that I worked for that did that. Like it was so huge. Yeah. And so the insurance, like we had amazing health insurance that paid for all these treatments for the most part. I mean, like normal insurance you have out of pocket. But for 20 or 30 days at a time, I was just working remote on a computer or not working at all. Yeah. And anyway, so that was really, really good. But over the period of 3 years, Ryan got better through treatment. We had really great, amazing, normal time. And then weekly visits to the cancer clinic. He eventually relapsed. And I want to say he relapsed twice. And relapse is when they detect cancer in his blood cells again. And they would do that through what they call a bone marrow aspirate, which is putting a needle in his back into his hip bone to draw out bone marrow, which is kind of, and I'm not a doctor or even a medical professional, but I think all of the bone marrow kind of originates, or a lot of it is right there in like your hip bones and that kind of thing. That's why they always go there, or at least that's where the most of it is. So they would draw that out, they would test it, and then a day or two later, they would tell us clear or not. No evidence of disease, I think is what they would call it, or other. And so we wound up doing a bone marrow transplant after the second relapse, and that was way more involved. We had to find a donor, so somebody that matched his bone marrow to the extent that the doctors wanted. I think we found an 8 out of 10 match, which is what they wanted. The guy was in Germany, so they had to coordinate all that. We've never met the guy. We won't ever meet the guy. But it was something that this person selflessly gave. I don't think they were compensated for it. I think the hospital, bills were paid by our insurance. But other than that, it's somebody just did it. And you can sign up on a registry. We got a lot of people to do that. And I know people personally that have given since then because of a registry that they signed up for Ryan. Yeah. Wow. But anyway, that they kill all of his cells down to zero. Right. And then they give him these other cells in the form of a blood transfusion. And then you wait. And it's waiting. And I think that particular transplant was like 40 or 50 days in the hospital straight. So that's no leaving. You don't go anywhere. And then after the the cells take, and I'm using really basic terms here because that's what I remember, you have 100 days of isolation. So we had to go home with a 1.5, 2-year-old maybe, and be isolated. No friends, no church, no nothing. At the time, we went to a different church. We went to First Baptist Madison, and they actually cleaned a room Saturday night and had a teacher that was confirmed not sick so that Ryan could go to church.
Wow.
Every Sunday, they would have a room that was isolated just for him. It was so cool. Again, this is just like how the community surrounded us. And if anybody is from around here, they're going to probably have remembering hearing the story. We had a Facebook page. We were very open. But we found support through the people that were around us to get us through this. Like I said, my corporate job, my friends. I mean, you and I sat down on so many occasions and had lunch, and you gave me a gift card for groceries, or you did whatever, just something that you felt like was helpful. And we just talked, you know? Mm-hmm. So, but in the midst of all this, I wanted to make more money because, again, I was in a corporate job that I was so thankful for, but I wasn't making very much money. Mm-hmm. And there was no opportunity for growth. And so I'm like, all right, well, I've got now this sick child, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep my job. I don't know if I'm going to keep working because I want to take care of him and be home with him. And I had to come up with another source of income. So I was like, what can I do at my house that I can put in an envelope in my mailbox that can make money? That's where the thoughts started.
That's where his vinyl y'all came from.
So I bought a machine that was like a 15-inch wide vinyl machine, couple rolls of material that were like $20-$30 each, and started making decals, monograms mostly, and selling them on Etsy for $5 a sticker. And you think, okay, it's the stupidest thing, but like $5 a sticker times 100 stickers a day is a lot of money eventually, right? And it was easy, but then it led me to businesses that found me and said, hey, so we started advertising it to customize Yeti coolers, and Yeti tumblers weren't even out yet. Like the cup that you have right in front of us here, like those didn't even exist.
Right.
So we were putting stickers on Yeti coolers. We had companies out of Texas and all these other places calling us and ordering 100 stickers to put on Yetis because it was way cheaper to do that than have Yeti do it themselves. And so that gave me the idea of working with companies and that, but we were still internet only. Mm-hmm. So Ryan's still here. We're in and out of the hospital. He relapses again after his transplant. And I feel like this all kind of interweaves. So, and we wound up having to go to Duke in North Carolina to have another transplant, but a different type. I packed up all of my vinyl equipment. I rented a 2-bedroom apartment, and I did all of it up there in Durham, North Carolina. Because number one, it gave me distraction from something that was terrible and hard, but it also was income, you know, in the midst of that. And so,
talk about, I want to, because I know your story. I've heard it. I love every time I hear it. And one of the things that sticks out to me the most is kind of a sidetrack, but talk about how y'all kept your faith. Like your faith is what, because in a situation like that, I mean, what they said, it was like the ratio of like, they told you that you and Lauren were going to get a divorce.
Yeah. So, and, you know, of course, if the person that said this is listening, you know, I'm sorry, but like a lot of people they have I can't remember what the title is, but anyway, in the hospital, there's somebody that kind of comes and talks you through everything. And it's not a chaplain or anything. It was like an administrative role that helps you to go through like all the insurance questions, all the things. But they basically sat us down and said, if this ends in death, this is day one, night one in the hospital.
Golly.
We get a diagnosis this day. We sign chemo papers, all this stuff. And they sit us down and said, if this ends in death, which is the last thing you want to hear, there's like a 96% chance that this will end in divorce as well. And I'm like, all right, I appreciate y'all setting us up for success here. You know, it's terrible to think about, but it's like, if you think about it, the way you can say things in business, like you could say it's going to end in divorce, or you could say you should work really hard,
right,
so that this doesn't end in divorce, or so that you can keep your marriage, you know, healthy.
Right.
And so, our faith is one thing that, you know, really got us through that whole experience. I mean, from day one, that moment of, you know, Lauren and I praying, driving to the hospital, 2 of our super close friends who were our Sunday school teachers at the time came and met us at the hospital and prayed with us. The support from the community, some people all over, but especially in the church, say like standing in the gap, right? This is like something that they say, well, that's what people did for us. And that's why I always encourage people, when somebody that you know or care about is like struggling with anything, don't necessarily ask them what they need, just do something. Because when you just do something, it helps, it makes a difference. And that's what people did for us. And by us sharing his message on Facebook, we got support, we got encouragement, we got prayers. And it just meant the world. It just helped us so much. But, you know, people ask us all the time, how did you do it? Well, number one, if you're a good parent, you would have done the same thing, right? Or you would do the same thing.
Many times,
but like the other side of that is, if you're a believer, if you have knowledge that you're going to go to heaven when you die and live in eternity with Jesus in the most perfect world, like it's you know where you're going to go. So like, is it terrible that my son is not here with me today? Yes. It makes me sad every single day. But I do know that I'll see him again one day. If you don't believe in Jesus, like, and I don't mean to make this about that either, but like, how do you have any sense of peace in a terrible situation like that? Because you're like, oh, it's just over. Like you just die and you're just in the ground and it's just no more. That seems, I don't know. It's just like empty.
Right.
So I don't see how people can think that. But anyway, so that's what really brought us through it. And we went to North Carolina. We were facing a lot of really difficult times. We had to be life flighted there, straight from Batson to Duke. That was a lot of coordination on a lot of parts. We did a stem cell transplant from cord blood. So like they have a cord blood bank in North Carolina. They chose a half match, meaning like it was only, let's say, a 5 out of 10, but the point was for it to fight against his cells so that it would kill the bad cells. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, that he never recovered from that transplant. He passed away in the midst of that process. But that process looked something, you know, like this, and I won't go into all the details just for the sake of it's terrible, but like we moved him there. He was 3 years old, almost 3.5. He wasn't happy. He was like, this is not my normal hospital, not my normal nurses. And it's horrible that a kid would have to even know that. But like he had nurses and doctors that he knew and loved at Batson, and they're amazing people still to this day. And the people at Duke were amazing, but it was different. And our family wasn't there, and then they would travel to see us a lot. Like both of our parents came up all the time, which was a big thing. They had to take off work and do all that. You know, it was just tough. And he was really sick. We didn't necessarily see that. Lauren and I never really thought until probably a couple of days before he passed that he was going to die. Like we never thought it. We believed that he would be healed because we'd seen him healed before in the process. So it was a really tough pill to swallow, but you know, he was in ICU in his last days. And like, I mean, we had to take turns who stayed in the room because they only allowed one parent. But I can remember being in the ICU room and I'm blank on like the exact number, but 30, 40, 50 days, whatever it was.
And you said it was like no windows.
Yeah, we were in a room that was built. There was a building built next to it. So like there was a window, but there was no, like there was a brick. If you open the window, there was bricks there.
Right.
And it wasn't next to it. It was like against the glass. Like it was, I don't even know how they did it physically, but it was just one of the most terrible experiences. And, you know, going back, like all the while I'm still operating this business to the best of my abilities, but you know, I'm kind of like breaking down at the same time because I'm in this, what felt like a cell, but what I had to do was take care of my son, you know, like do everything I could do and fight to the last, you know, the umpteenth extent for him. And he ultimately passed away June 3rd, 2016. Lauren and I were there with him, and it's so sad. I mean, we miss him every single day. I guess this would be 8 or 9 years this year. I think it's 9 years. And so that's crazy to think about, you know, but we're still married, and we've been through some major bumps in the road, but all the things we come back to is like our community and the support from the community, our church, our friends, the people that we do business with. I have people every single day that come into my shop and still talk about Ryan to me, right? Because they knew about us. And so like, those are the things that make a difference in my life even today, because again, like I'm not walking around struggling, but I'm sad about my son every single day. Absolutely. I mean, it's natural. But I'm so blessed that we have our 2 kids here, and our 2 kids know about Ryan. We talk about him openly. We love to talk to people out and about it. I mean, there's people that don't know me well that call me Ryan unintentionally, because I'm sure they're thinking like, don't say it, don't say it, don't say it. And then they're like, hey, Ryan. And they're like, crap, what, So,
and I've heard you say that a lot of times. Just talk about it. Like
he's my son. Like, we can talk about him all day. So, but he passes away. We come back here and our lives feel empty. And I had a corporate job at the time still. I was with a CPA firm now, marketing for them, and met with my boss, who was amazing, supportive, encouraging, all the things. And I just said, man, I can't come back. Can't do it. Yeah. And he said, well, I know you're going to have success. And I'm sorry, like, if I'm not going to name his name, but he'll know who he is if he hears this. But like, he said, I know that you're going to have success in whatever you do. That's the reason why we hired you. We know you're an amazing person. So I was like, so excited for his encouragement in that. But he said, this vinyl thing that you're doing is just for fun, and to some degree. And so I was like, okay, that's one of those, like,
my fuel.
Yeah, let me prove this point real fast. So,
right,
we were still selling on Etsy and then on our website, and we were selling probably $10,000 or $15,000 a month in $5 stickers. That was it.
Really?
We weren't selling vehicle wraps. We weren't selling signs. We were selling monogram logos.
I remember that, because you did some custom. You could make whatever
whatever
decal you want to put on a truck that said whatever. You could.
Yeah.
You're the only man in town that could do it.
So we were doing it, shipping them all over the place. And I told Lauren, I said, we've lost our son, and the only other thing that we could lose is our marriage and our house, and we have both of those. So if you agree to, like, let's just bear down and do this thing, let's do it.
That's what I wanted to hear, the support. And
yeah,
we bring the spouse in on every podcast, it seems like, because there's such a it's so integral. And so Lauren was supportive of
Lauren was
the vinyl,
was over half of the whole deal. Like, now she hadn't done much of any of it to this point, because she's been a mom to Ryan. That was her full-time job. It was like managing the medicine, managing the process. Sure. I mean, she became an expert in cancer.
Right.
Terribly, but yes. And so she needed a purpose as well, and she didn't want to go back to a job. And so we both started this. We went and got a lease in Gluckstadt. We had a building that we rented from a guy who took a risk on us. I kind of beat him up on the price. I was like, man, I'm first time doing this. I don't really want to spend the money. I don't know if I can afford it. All the fear was coming out in me, but I was like, I had to remind myself every single day that this is a leap of faith. We got to take it. We got to try. Let's do this. So we did it.
And that space y'all leased, it was, how big was it?
1,500. Yeah, 1,500 square feet. It was a great space. He did a good build out for us. But I mean, we weren't there 6 months and we outgrew the space. Wow. We learned real fast. Internet business is great for what we were doing. But if we wanted to really build a customer base and have clients that we could work with and help them grow, like we talked about earlier, this is the only way to do that. We had to build a local base of clients that we could anchor ourselves with, help their businesses grow, and in turn we grow with them. Mm-hmm. And so we were out of space quickly. You and I, in the midst of all this, are talking business and real estate. And I can remember there's a building which we're in now, to spoil the surprise, but like we would drive past it going to your old house.
Yeah.
And it was a CrossFit gym. And I was like, I just love the layout of that building. I like the land. It's good. It looks like it would be a perfect size for what we do. And I was like, Paul, if that building ever comes for sale, let me know. I'd like to buy it.
Right.
Or I'd like to at least consider it. Right. And I don't think it was a week later you called me and you're like, you're not going to believe this, but it's for sale. And I said, well, let's figure it out. Let's do something. And we wrote up an offer and bought that building in 2017 or late 2016. I forget the exact time frame, but like all this happened within 12 months of Ryan passing away. And I mean, that was scary, but like having you to talk me through a commercial property purchase was huge. Again, like we're super good friends. We've been through a lot of life together. We grew up doing all the, similar things. And then to be able to come to you and say like, hey, I want to do this. And you just kind of laid the process out and made it something I had no clue. And still to this day, I'm kind of learning on it, but like,
right.
I don't know if you want to add anything to that whole.
No, I think you hit the nail on the head, and I've seen you grow a lot in that real estate space. I mean, you handle all of our signs and everything, so we deal with its vinyl y'all all the time, and they've been excellent. But as far as your growth, It's amazing because I remember that. Like I remember going to lunch and just literally talking about the $5 decals and like, and then that transition to the place on Lexington Drive, and then outgrowing that, and then getting to where you are now. And now every day you go by now, you've outgrown what you've got now. You know, and
I mean, I can remember I told somebody yesterday. I think it was yesterday. I was actually at the Hartley open house, and that's another incredible business in Gluckstadt. But somebody there was talking to me about my space and just seeing all the cars, and I said, you know, I'm looking for another piece of property or building right now, trying to do something, and we can talk about that, what we're working on at the moment. But one of the things that you told me a couple years ago was like, I don't remember the exact words, but go until it hurts, basically. And it's like, make your building work until you just got no other choice. That's kind of what I heard from you. And I remember in the last 6 months, I sent you a video of my parking lot with standing room only, basically.
right.
Vehicles 3 deep in the back. I mean, we got police cars and buses and 18-wheeler trailers and whatever else in there. And I was like, I think this is my sign.
Right.
Like, it's
to
time.
the gills, yeah. No, I think that's a motto I've always gone after. I mean, that's how, you know, when I got into real estate and was originally doing the water damage and mold remediation stuff, I was getting into real estate, but I stayed on doing that water damage stuff until it hurt, until I could not physically do both. And then I was like, okay, I feel safe enough with, you know, moving into 100% commission based deal. And I think I commend you on what you've done with the business and where you're at, because it's so easy to experience success and feel like you deserve, we've talked about this before, where you feel like you deserve to go buy something big, nice, shiny. And if you can just self-control and take it in stride,
Right.
and make a financial decision, you know, based on just what you need versus what you want. I think that just at the end of the day, you're gonna see a huge difference in. But to your point, I mean, like one of the best things you did was buying the building, you know, and we've talked about this too, because a lot of businesses will lease instead of purchasing, and there's nothing wrong with leasing. I own commercial property. I mean, I'm all for leasing. So, you know, but everybody's situation is different. Everybody's different. Everybody's business is different. Somebody may justify leasing a building versus purchasing one because they're a capital intensive business where they have to go buy a bunch of product, you know, and they have to store things. And it's just, you know, they're maybe in a season of their business where they don't have the ability, and it doesn't just make sense to go buy a building. But you were in a position where you could acquire a building and look at the appreciation. And I harp on this, and I will continue to harp on this, to buy grade A assets in good locations. And if you do that, there will be benefits. And I think you're experiencing that right now with just the equity that you've got in that property. And so I think you've done a great job with that. And so tell us, all right, where is its vinyl at right now? So you've pretty heavy in vehicle wraps now. Though, right?
Yep. And one thing I want to touch on that you mentioned, so I'll jump back to the, you know, kind of financial decisions and that kind of thing. And we mentioned our spouses. So all this while, Lauren was working in the business, and she helped me make these financial decisions. She was the anchor for me not going and buying the shiny objects, because that's my tendency, is to like get the fun thing.
Right.
But then we had Bo, so she steps out of the business and goes to work, you know, basically from home. So she still gives help and all those things, but her primary role is being a stay-at-home mom. And we're really, really fortunate for that. She sent me something the other day, and it's funny, but it's like the ultimate flex is getting your wife out of her 9 to 5. And it's like, that's what I'm hanging my hat on right now, is like, there's times when, you know, it's super hard for her to be at home watching the kids, but like, how fortunate are we that I'm able to do what I love every day, and she's able to raise our kids.
Right.
It's
huge.
invaluable.
It's invaluable.
So,
I mean, that's
not a knock to the women that work, you know, 8-hour days.
Not at all. But I mean, that piggybacks what me and Tyler talked about the other day, the commodity of time. You know, if you can if you can extract that time out, you know, I mean, that's just so priceless. No, that resonates with me too, because, you know, when me and Gina met, she was working at Farm Bureau out there off of 220, and I remember I remember going, she wanted me to come eat lunch over there one day, and I went and ate lunch with her. They've got like a little cafeteria up in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, the demeanor in there was just, I mean, I probably shouldn't go through all that, but it was, it was, I'm like, man, there ain't a guy in here smiling. I'm like, I was like, I told Janice, you got to get out of here. I mean, this is worse than the library.
Yeah.
So
It's tough.
getting the spouse to, and it's just same way with Gina. Like I have prevented myself from making big mistakes. I can't tell you how many times by just even if she's just a soundboard.
Oh yeah. I get a quick answer, and it's funny because Lauren knows and laughs about it now, but like she knows that I won't ask her certain things because of how critical her feedback is, and not critical in a negative way, but like she's going to find it. If there's something wrong, she'll ask me like, how far do you want me to look at this? Or how much do you want me involved? Cause she is so good at that. But, anyway, and you had asked me about it's Vinyl Y'all and kind of where we are today. So we've grown from me and Lauren and one other employee. Our first hire we ever made was a graphic designer. We felt like that was the anchor point of what we do. So I do the installations. I was doing the printing and production. Lauren was doing a lot of the office work. Design was a key factor we needed and we didn't have. And I was fumbling my way through it, but we hired that. And since then, we've gone to administrative roles. We have account managers, and now we have a team of about 10. It fluctuates between 9 and 11, depending on the time of the year. And sometimes we have seasonal people, but we usually have about 10 employees, all full-time. Again, administrative roles that are doing account management. We have graphic designers. We have installers. We have window film folks, and we just hired a social media manager. And that's a new role for us, but it's been an amazing hire because it has taken a big weight off of my back. But we serve any kind of customer. So it could be somebody that has a 5K or a church and they just want some simple banners.
What's the biggest job you've ever done? Like, what's the biggest physical size? Because you did I saw one deal you did at Terry High School.
So we just did a big job at Terry High School. It was like roughly about a 40 foot by 40 foot bulldog on the side of their new building. They built a new gymnasium. If you've gone down 55 South, you've seen it. I mean, you can't miss it.
That's a far cry from a $5 decal.
Yeah. That was 27 panels. So a panel is like a sheet of material, and the material, we made it 4.5 feet wide and 14 feet tall. So 27 pieces of material that were 4.5 feet wide by 14 feet tall. And we had to hang those on the building and wrap a corrugated metal building like that. One of the largest things we did last year, we did it was 210 vehicles, 207 vehicles for a property management company, a national deal. We turned that in about 2 months. We just did that a couple days a week. We do a lot of police and fire stuff all over. So we've done, in the last 12 months, we've done jobs as far as LaGrange, Georgia, El Dorado, Arkansas, all over the place. We get vehicles from everywhere. Our bread and butter, our favorite niche or area of the market is home service companies. So heating, cooling, plumbing, roofing, any businesses like that, like handyman services.
Right.
All of those businesses, in my mind, I think they're recession proof, number one, and I think they have a huge growth opportunity. And so we have really found a way to help those companies create a brand and an identity, display that through their vehicles, their signage, things like that, and help them to grow. And honestly, that's one of our, we love doing all the things we do, but that's one of the most visible values that you can see is we can help these companies. And I'm not taking credit for their growth, but the products that we offer and give to them or provide shows so much value. I've had a guy the other day, we put logos on a truck for, and he was sort of reluctant to do it. And he wanted to do a trailer as well when basically when he had made some more income and had the opportunity. And he called us back almost immediately and was like, let's get the trailer on the schedule. I've already gotten, X phone calls in just a matter of a day of driving around with my logos on my truck. And to get those phone calls and hear people's success, just right away, it gets me so excited and fired up because I feel like I have a part in each of these companies.
Right.
And my team, who is a group of people that, are so much smarter than me in a lot of ways, we all can take credit for and be a huge part of that. And
That's awesome.
and then focusing on, again, the client experience and reviews. I mean, if you go look at our reviews, we started really working heavy on that. We're over 100, 150 5-star reviews, and everybody tells a very similar story. The team that communicates extremely well and on time, we meet and exceed expectations, and we deliver a product that's exactly what we tell you it's going to be. And so I feel like that's our success story, is like, we do exactly what we say we're going to do. We're going to answer the phone when we do something right and when we do it wrong. We're not going to ghost you.
Right.
We're not going to be like, oh, go down to the guy down the road. We're always going to try to provide a solution if we have it. It's like, that's all you have to do.
Yeah.
Is just do people right.
Do people right. No, you're exactly right. Man, one thing I'll say, like, just in watching your whole journey, and one thing that I've learned from you a lot that has really helped me and has pushed me and inspired me is your ability to continue to force yourself to grow. And things like, I can't tell you, I feel like every capacity of a business, I'll be talking to you about it, and you're like, oh, well, they got this new technology that you can do X, Y, Z with. And I'm like, how, kind of like back to the supplement deal. Like, how do you come up with this stuff? How do you feel? Like, you're always pushing yourself to find the new next best thing to be efficient. And I think you've pioneered that space really well. I think you do a really good job of that. And obviously it's evident in the growth of your business. And I think that's great. I know we're about out of time, but I do want you to give some insight, just because your story is so unique, and from the personal side and then the business. What advice would you give somebody that, let's say, they're about to come out of college, that may have or feel like they have the entrepreneurial spirit? Like, do you have any insight on like what you could go back and tell yourself at that time of, just encouragement, or somebody that I want you to hit on that, and then I want you to hit on somebody that's going through a real valley? Like,
Yeah. So I think the thing that I missed that would have helped me the most is think about, again, going back to that Sunday scary, as you called it, or Gina called it. What would make you not have that feeling? To me, you could boil all this down to like that one simple thought of like, you've got to love what you do every day, or else you're not going to have a fulfilled life. I mean, there's a lot of other factors that go into it, but if you're miserable to be around, like, your family's not going to want to be around you, your kids are not going to want to be around you, but like, so you've got to love what you do.
Yeah.
You're going to have days when it's hard and not fun and all it's stressful. But what could you find? So as about to exit college, or about to get out of high school and go to college or trade school, what do you think you would love doing? And at that age, it's hard to say because you're a little bit immature and still haven't really figured it out. But like, what have you seen people do? What's your goal in your life? Do you want to work for somebody? Do you want to own a business? I mean, and then go find those people that are doing that or something that's similar, and go have those conversations. Because every single one of those business owners or executives in a bank or whoever it is, like, they would love to sit down with you and have that conversation. It seems like an untouchable person or a scary thing, or like, if you wanted to come talk to me, by all means, let's do it. But like, even somebody, like myself, I try to find these people all the time and go pick their brains, because they have insight and knowledge that you can't know until you've gone through it.
Right.
So I think that's one other point that, again, I missed, and that would be so helpful to me.
That's so true. When you really, I mean, it sounds elementary in one regard, like, hey, you need to like your job or whatever, or have your passion. But that's so true, because when I think about like my situation, I look like, if I have a fun weekend, I am excited. Literally, am excited to get up. I get up at 4:30 every Monday morning. I'm up at 4:30, and Sunday night I'm looking forward to getting up at 4:30 to knock Monday in the head.
Yep.
And that and it sounds elementary, but if you're Sunday night, you're like, oh, I ain't ready for this.
Yeah. So I think that's
like that.
That's what my business advice would be, or to encourage like your next stage of life. And then somebody that's in a valley, reach out to a friend, family member, church member, whoever it is, and be vulnerable. Tell them what you need. Tell them what you want. Tell them where you're struggling. You can call counselors. Obviously, those are tremendous resources. But as I talked a lot about our story, being Ryan's story is what we call our story. That shaped so much of where I am and who I am today, but it's because of the support that we had. We didn't have the outcome we wanted, but we had people that were around us that supported us each and every day. And a lot of that was through us being vulnerable and sharing our story and saying our specific needs and talking about the difficulties or all the things. And I think it's, in almost any case, there's always somebody that wants to help you or be a part. Like in it, you could pick anybody, even somebody that has no family or whatever. There's somebody somewhere that cares about you, that wants to help you out. So I say, like, people that feel isolated or completely alone, or like they're in the pit of, no one's ever been in this bad of a scenario. I can promise you there's somebody that has been in a worse situation, and you can be in a better situation. And I'm not plugging a book, but I'm plugging a book. I just started listening to, I do audiobooks. And I listened to that lady's book that's, it's called the Let Them Theory. It's like Mel, I'm drawing a blank on her last name, but anyway, it's not important. You can go look it up, the Let Them Theory. But she also wrote a book that's called the 5-Second Rule. And so I'm listening to that right now, and it's like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, kind of retrain your brain, or try to like restart your brain and get you from dismissing a thought or an idea. And I don't remember exactly where I was going with this, but the whole point there is like, you have got to take action.
Yeah.
And get yourself out of where you're at. And you can, through methods like that, get in a better place. You could be in a pit of despair, have no money, losing your house, losing your family, all those things. And you could look up in a few years through some self-discipline and growth and talking to people and supporting yourself and doing healthy habits and all those things, and be a multimillionaire with a huge company. And I mean, anything can happen. Like, right. Just because you're in a state of failure or difficulty does not mean you're there forever.
Man, that's good.
Man,
that's perfect. That's really good insight. Well, Austin, we really appreciate you coming on. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I always love hearing your story, and looking forward to watching It's Vinyl.
Yeah, I appreciate
growing,
it.
So.
It was a good time, and I love seeing this, and hopefully I gave everybody something good to listen to chew on. So,
all right, see ya.